And this one, the revenue for the government is going to be around $500 million per annum.
What I've seen here is actually magnificent. And this is an example of what Nigerians can do.
What if we told you Nigeria just stumbled upon a hidden fortune worth $12 trillion? A discovery that could flip global energy politics upside down. Lithium, the metal that powers electric cars, grids, and the future itself, is buried deep in Nigeria's soil. But is this just another story of Africa being looted? Or the moment the continent finally writes its own rules? Let's
In a quiet stretch of Nigeria's plateau state, red earth gives way to something extraordinary, a mineral so light it floats on oil, yet powerful enough to fuel the 21st century. Lithium, the metal that makes the modern world move. 20 to 5. The headlines came suddenly. Nigeria discovers $12 trillion in lithium deposits. For a moment, the world paused. Analysts checked figures twice. Commodity traders called it the most consequential African find since crude oil. But this story didn't begin overnight. It began deep underground, and decades in the making. Lithium, sometimes called white gold, is the beating heart of the global energy transition, from smartphones to solar storage, and from Teslas to satellites. Lithium-ion batteries power the technologies defining our century. In 2010, the world's lithium production barely passed 25,000 tons a year. By 2024, demand had quadrupled, and forecasts from the International Energy Agency predict it will surge another 500% by 2030. The race for lithium has already redrawn global maps. Australia leads mining, China dominates refining, the US and Europe scramble for supply chains. And now Nigeria enters the stage. The discovery traces back to the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, whose teams, alongside private exploration firms, began surveying pegmatite belts across Nasarawa, Kwara, and Kogi states in 2022. What they found astonished them: lithium concentrations exceeding to 0.5% grade, rivaling some of the richest veins in South America's Lithium Triangle. By late 2024, a consortium of geologists confirmed reserves potentially worth $12 trillion United States dollars, assuming current global prices and future extraction potential. Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Delia Lake, called it a discovery that will redefine our industrial destiny. International news agencies quickly compared it to Saudi Arabia's oil moment in the 1930s, but the question everyone asked was the same: would Nigeria finally escape the resource curse, or repeat it? For over 6 decades, Nigeria's story has been intertwined with oil, the black gold that brought wealth, corruption, and environmental scars. Yet, as the world pivots away from fossil fuels, the nation faces a crossroad: adapt or decline. This lithium discovery may be Nigeria's second chance, a chance to rewrite its resource history, diversify its economy, and lead Africa's green revolution. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, speaking at the 2025 Abuja Energy Summit, declared, "We missed the 20th century industrial boom, but we will not miss the 21st century energy revolution." Nigeria will refine its lithium, not just export it. That single sentence send a clear message: no more raw exports, no more dependency on foreign refiners. The markets reacted instantly, within hours. Lithium futures spiked by 9%. China's CATL and BYD, the world's largest battery makers, quietly sent delegations to Abuja. Elon Musk's Tesla reportedly requested data from the Nigerian Bureau of Mines on potential partnerships. A senior analyst at Bloomberg NEF remarked, if Nigeria manages to process even 20% of its lithium locally, it could become Africa's Saudi Arabia, but in clean energy. Meanwhile, European policymakers voiced cautious optimism. For them, Nigerian lithium offers a path to diversify away from Chinese supply chains, but only if governance remains transparent. But beneath the big numbers and diplomatic visits, life in towns like Wamba, Kina, and Kefi tells another story. Farmers, who once tilled cassava fields now see trucks hauling drilling rigs. Local chiefs sign agreements promising community benefits, but worrying about water use and environmental safeguards. A school teacher in Nasarawa told the BBC, "We want development, but not another oil story. If lithium means jobs and education, then it's welcome. But if it means pollution, then what's the point?" Her words capture the delicate balance between progress and protection, between extraction and empowerment. And so, as the world rushes to electrify, Nigeria holds in its soil a piece of the planet's future. A silvery mineral that could power continents or deepen inequalities. The stakes could not be higher. The story of Nigeria's lithium isn't just about rocks beneath the ground. It's about who controls the batteries of the future, and by extension, the next century's power structure. In the 20th century, oil determined alliances, wars, and global wealth. In the 21st, the prize is lithium, and control of it could define the geopolitical order. China dominates more than 75% of global lithium refining and 80% of battery cell manufacturing. The United States, the European Union, and Japan, while leading in innovation, are almost entirely dependent on foreign supply chains. So, when Nigeria entered the map, with potentially the world's sixth largest lithium reserves, policymakers from Washington to Beijing took notice. Whoever secures Nigeria's lithium doesn't just secure a mineral, they secure influence across Africa's future economy. Beijing moved first. In mid-2024, Zhejiang Huayu Cobalt and Ganfeng Lithium, to Chinese mining giants, opened offices in Abuja. Within months, memorandums of understanding were signed to establish joint ventures for refining and battery assembly. Satellite imagery from trade analysts even showed new construction near Lokoja, believed to be part of a lithium processing pilot plant. China's strategy is clear: invest early, build local partnerships, and lock in long-term supply chains. It's the same playbook that made Beijing indispensable in African oil, copper, and infrastructure. But this time, things may not go as smoothly. By late 2024, the United States International Development Finance Corporation (DFC) announced exploratory talks with Nigerian authorities to finance lithium beneficiation projects, provided transparency and environmental standards were met. The European Union also followed suit. Under its Global Gateway initiative, Brussels proposed funding green industrial parks that could host battery manufacturing and recycling hubs in Lagos and Abuja. Analysts dubbed it the Lithium Cold War, a race not for weapons, but for energy sovereignty. The next Tesla, the next Apple, even the next Boeing, will all depend on lithium. Nigeria could be the difference between Western resilience and dependence, but perhaps the most remarkable part of this story and what the great powers are doing. It's what Africa is doing for itself. Across the continent, governments are beginning to refuse raw export models. Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Namibia have already banned the export of unprocessed lithium. Nigeria may follow suit. In December 2024, Minister Dele Alake proposed a lithium industrialization bill, which would require all miners to establish local processing plants before export permits are granted. If passed, it would be one of the most progressive mineral policies in Africa, ensuring that value is captured within national borders, not shipped abroad. This is Africa learning from its past. The age of extraction is ending. The age of transformation is beginning. Behind the policy headlines, quiet groundwork is already being laid. In Ogun State, the Ajakuta Steel Revival Project, once a symbol of Nigeria's industrial stagnation, is being repositioned, a hub for battery casing and component manufacturing. In Lagos, Innocent Motors, Nigeria's pioneering car manufacturer, announced a partnership with local universities to develop electric vehicle prototypes powered by domestically refined lithium batteries. And in Abuja, the National Center for Energy and Environment has begun pilot research on solid-state lithium batteries, potentially safer, faster charging alternatives to current technology. These developments hint at something deeper than a mineral boom, a new industrial vision. Nigeриa's lithium is already shifting global trade forecasts. The World Bank revised Africa's 2025 growth outlook upward, citing strategic mineral acceleration. Tesla, BYD, and Volkswagen all mention African sourcing opportunities in recent shareholder calls. And in the United Nations 2025 Global Energy Report, Nigeria was listed among the top 5 countries poised to influence the renewable energy transition by 2030. Even the International Monetary Fund, usually cautious in tone, acknowledged a new optimism. Nigeria's lithium discovery could, if managed responsibly, mark the start of a sustainable transformation unprecedented in sub-Saharan Africa. But optimism comes with echoes from the past. The Niger Delta once promised prosperity through oil. Instead, it brought environmental degradation, conflict, and inequality. Can Nigeria avoid repeating history? Environmental groups such as Friends of the Earth Nigeria and Green Energy Africa are already sounding alarms. They warn of potential groundwater contamination, deforestation, and displacement if mining accelerates without strict oversight. Meanwhile, economists point out a more subtle risk, the Dutch disease, where a single lucrative sector drains talent and resources from others. Lithium can save Nigeria, or it can consume it. The difference lies in governance. By 2025, Nigeria found itself at the center of a new kind of attention. CNN called it the next Saudi Arabia of batteries. The Economist ran a cover story titled Africa's White Gold Rush. And at the COP30 climate conference in Sao Paulo, Nigerian delegates presented a bold agenda to position the nation as a global hub for green energy manufacturing, not just raw mineral supply. This was more than symbolism. It was a signal of intent, a message that Africa would no longer sit at the margins of industrial revolutions, but lead them. In the boardrooms of Beijing and Washington, in the markets of Lagos and the hills of Nasarawa, the same quiet realization is spreading, that the balance of global power may once again shift southward. And at its heart lies a silvery element weighing just under 7 grams per cubic centimeter, but capable of moving entire economies. Every nation has a moment, a single turning point, when history seems to pause, waiting to see what comes next. For Nigeria, that moment may be now. As dawn breaks over Nasarawa State, the first rays of sunlight strike red earth and rolling hills. But beneath this landscape lies something far more valuable than gold: lithium, the lightest metal on Earth. Once overlooked, this mineral is now the centerpiece of a global transformation, the backbone of electric vehicles, smartphones, and renewable energy storage. And for the first time in decades, Nigeria stands not as a consumer of technology, but as a potential architect of the next energy era. Across the continent, similar awakenings are happening. Zimbabwe is expanding its lithium mines in Bikita. Namibia is refining ore for export to Europe. The Democratic Republic of Congo is leveraging cobalt for regional battery production. Together, these nations are crafting a new African narrative, one where resources fuel innovation, not dependence. In the industrial heart of Lagos, a quiet revolution is underway. Engineers at the University of Lagos Energy Systems Lab have begun designing Nigeria's first modular battery packs, capable of storing solar power for rural electrification. Their pilot project, called Power in a Box, uses locally processed lithium carbonate sourced directly from Nigerian mines. For decades, we exported crude oil and imported gasoline. This time, we want to mine lithium and export technology. It's a subtle shift, but one that could redefine Nigeria's economy for generations. According to projections from the African Development Bank, value-added lithium manufacturing could create over 200,000 jobs and generate more than $20 billion in annual GDP growth by 2030. But beyond numbers lies a deeper ambition: self-determination. In early 2025, a consortium of West African nations, Nigeria, Ghana, and Côte d'Ivoire, signed an agreement to develop what they called the West African Energy Corridor. At its core, the plan to integrate lithium extraction, refining, and battery production along shared infrastructure lines, highways, rail, and energy grids, a continental vision reminiscent of Europe's post-war industrial cooperation, but this time, driven by African Initiative. The African Union's Agenda 2063 identifies this integration, the foundation for continental self-sufficiency. In their own words, Africa's resources will serve Africa first, empowering our industries, our people, and our future. It's a vision of unity through shared prosperity, forged from the earth itself, back home, in the hills of Nasarawa, Kogi, and Kwara. What geologists now call Nigeria's Lithium Triangle, activity is intensifying. The federal government has deployed advanced aerial magnetic surveys, uncovering nearly 3.5 million tons of high-grade spodumene deposits, enough to rival established producers in Chile and Australia. But this time, rather than foreign-led extraction, Nigeria is pursuing joint ventures with local control. One such example, the Nigerian Mining Development Corporation, NMDC, is partnering with Dango Industries to construct the country's first fully integrated lithium refinery in Kogi State, expected to begin operations by 2027. Minister Dele Alake calls it the birth of Nigeria's new industrial spine. Yet progress, like lithium itself, comes with volatility. Environmental scientists warned that unregulated mining could devastate fragile ecosystems, pollute rivers, and displace rural communities. In Nasarawa's Mararaba region, locals have already voiced concern. We welcome development, but we don't want our land poisoned for someone else's battery. The government has since pledged strict enforcement of the Environmental Impact Assessment Act, mandating green mining protocols and rehabilitation programs. In Abuja, researchers are also studying eco-mining methods, including solar-powered processing and chemical-free extraction. The hope is clear: to prove that green minerals can be mined greenly. As Nigeria pushes forward, global markets are recalibrating. By mid-2025, lithium prices had surged again, driven in part by Nigeria's entry into the supply chain. Investors see a new epicenter of energy minerals emerging, one that challenges the old order of Latin America and Asia. The International Energy Agency, IEA, released a forecast naming Nigeria a top 5 strategic player in the global lithium race by 2035. And for the first time, the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council hosted a special session on Africa's role in the battery economy. Among the speakers, young Nigerian engineers, economists, and startup founders, sharing a single message: this time, Africa will not sell raw materials. We will sell the future. In Yaba, Lagos's tech hub, a new wave of startups is forming around clean energy innovation. Companies like Voltron Energy, Lagos Lithium Labs, and EcoVolt are building battery prototypes, electric motorcycles, and decentralized storage systems for off-grid communities. These are the children of the lithium age, where physics, code, and chemistry merge to create opportunity. For once, we're not catching up, we're in the lead. The world needs what we have, and this time, we know it. It's an optimism rarely felt in a nation long defined by its oil struggles, and it's spreading fast. History, however, casts a long shadow. When oil was discovered in Oloibiri in 1956, it promised wealth and modernity. Instead, decades of mismanagement, corruption, and environmental disaster followed. Could lithium be different? Some analysts believe so. Unlike oil, lithium is a tech mineral. Its value lies in knowledge, processing, and innovation, not just extraction. If Nigeria builds a strong industrial and educational ecosystem, training engineers, chemists, and data scientists, it can control the full value chain. Already, institutions like the African University of Science and Technology OST in Abuja launching quantum chemistry and materials science programs, designed specifically to support this new industry. Oil made us rich in resources. Lithium can make us rich in knowledge. The implications stretch beyond profit. Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, also faces one of the world's biggest electricity gaps. Over 85 million Nigerians still lack reliable access to power. But lithium batteries could change that, enabling off-grid solar systems, microgrids, and energy storage solutions that bypass traditional infrastructure. In rural Adamawa, solar mini-grids are already lighting up schools and clinics, powered by lithium-ion packs built in Nigeria. We used to close classes early because of darkness. Now our students read at night. It feels like a new dawn for millions. This isn't about geopolitics. It's about light. As the world races toward decarbonization, Africa holds the key to a more balanced, sustainable future. The continent possesses over 30% of the world's critical minerals, lithium, cobalt, manganese, and graphite, yet accounts for less than 1% of global battery production. That imbalance is beginning to shift. The African Continental Free Trade Area (AfCFTA) accelerating cross-border collaboration, allowing countries to share infrastructure and expertise. Meanwhile, the African Export-Import Bank (Afreximbank) is funding industrial parks dedicated to green manufacturing, from Egypt's solar assembly lines to Kenya's battery recycling facilities. At the center of this renaissance stands Nigeria, the giant finally waking. But with great promise comes a question of stewardship. Will Nigeria's lithium wealth build inclusive prosperity, or repeat the old patterns of inequality? Will the billions in foreign investment fuel innovation, or fuel corruption? These questions now sit before policymakers, entrepreneurs, and citizens alike, because lithium, for all its brilliance, cannot power integrity. Only leadership can. It's the year 2035. If current projections hold, Nigeria is no longer merely a raw material exporter. It's a battery manufacturing hub, exporting to Europe, Asia, and across Africa. Electric buses built in Lagos run silently through the streets of Accra. Solar storage systems made in Kaduna power schools in Nairobi. And young Nigerian scientists publish research in Nature, Energy, joining the global conversation on sustainable technology. This isn't fiction. It's the potential reality of a nation that finally decided to own its resources and its destiny. From oil rigs to lithium mines, from darkness to electric light, Nigeria's story has always been one of energy. But perhaps the real energy was never in the minerals. It was in the people, the engineers, the dreamers, the innovators who saw beyond extraction to creation. As the world shifts from combustion to conduction, from carbon to charge, Nigeria stands at the threshold of a new age, and maybe, just maybe, this time, history will remember Africa not as the world's supplier, but as its spark.